Are you tired of showing up to dinner parties with run of the mill wine that doesn't excite you or any of your friends? Wish you had a personal sommelier to guide you toward epiphany inducing bottles that'll rock everyone's world? Sensation is here to help. Its expert team seeks out incredible wines from top independent producers, aka bottles you won't find in grocery stores or on liquor store shelves. These are the opposite of mass produced wines. Somsation's online wine shop features hundreds of bottles handcrafted with meticulous care with top notch fruit by the most skilled winemakers. Also in the mix, curated wine club options that'll have you discovering new favorites. Whether you're in the market for a single bottle, virtual tasting experiences, private tastings, or a wine club membership, Somsation makes it easy and can make your wine experience even more special.
Explore now at somsation.com/wine enthusiast. Hello, and welcome to the Wine Enthusiast podcast. I'm Jordan Kaplan, managing editor over here at Wine Enthusiast. Today's conversation on the market for wine in Thailand and in Asia will be primarily led by writer-at-large Danielle Callegari, where she speaks to two industry insiders on the rising interest and curiosity in wine in Thailand from the perspectives of an American somm working in Bangkok and a Thai somm working in Brooklyn, respectively. In our current somewhat doom and gloom climate around the industry as a whole in the US, you might be surprised to find that there's fresh enthusiasm and opinions abroad. Welcome, Danielle Callegari, our writer-at-large for Wine Enthusiasts, covering Tuscany and South Italy. She is our first guest on today's episode. Danielle, welcome. How are you?
So well, Jordan, thanks for having me. Great to be able to talk together today.
We're extremely excited to have you and to open up this conversation. So I wanted to get straight into it. Your experience in the wine market in Thailand and in Asia. You recently contributed an article to the travel issue talking about your experience in Thailand. What did you glean from that and what did it sort of open your eyes to?
Well, I think the first thing that I have to say that's extremely important is that I have no experience and everything was new to me. I was in Thailand ostensibly for a vacation and to catch up with some friends who are not in the wine world, but as often happens to people who work in the industry, we find each other and one way or another, we end up drinking good wine together. And that's, of course, what happened. And while I was there thinking that I was going to be escaping, especially Italian wine, which is my area of interest, if not quite expertise, it's always a journey anyway, I was incredibly excited by what was happening. I was not surprised to find out that people in Bangkok, a city known for eating and drinking well, was filled with great options in that sense. But what did really strike me as unexpected is that the wine scene wasn't just interesting or burgeoning or attracting new younger drinkers, but really just had a kind of vibrancy and energy across the board. The people who are working in wine there seem optimistic and really filled with this positive energy. The people who are drinking wine there are very curious and excited to explore. And the outlook, because of some of the changes going on in terms of their political and economic landscape, was similarly optimistic. So to I guess bring that to some kind of a conclusion, what I found was in a world where, in my context, everyone was feeling really down about wine, everyone in Thailand instead seemed like they were feeling super positive, optimistic, and looking to the future with bright open eyes. And it was just a joy to be there, enjoying wine with them and hearing their feedback.
Did you find yourself identifying any trends in the wine list that you did encounter or in the conversations that you had for what the appetite is for kinds of wine?
Yeah, I think very expectedly, the big or the people who are moving the market right now are in luxury hotels, very high end restaurants. So, with that, as you might imagine, there are big bottles and big names, and those are definitely there. And people who have money to spend, who tend to be either people who are not ethnically Thai but living in Bangkok or Chiang Mai, or Thai people who have lived abroad themselves and have experience in other cultural spaces where wine is more common and started to engage with it there and then brought that passion back with them. Those are people who also have more disposable income and are looking for bottles like that. And that's one side of it. But as often happens, then that opens up the possibility for other kinds of establishments and other kinds of drinkers to start their journey toward wine. And what I saw in some of the smaller wine bars, and there's not a ton just yet, but there are many. And I think in the article, I also mentioned that my colleague Alex had put together a great list for one of our previous issues of specifically natural wine bars or bars leaning toward natural, but also within that space are just all kinds of places that are really encouraging a younger crowd to experiment with things that might not be familiar. And so I think that piece of the landscape is starting to open up, at least anecdotally speaking, in my experience there this time, and from talking again to people who are working on the floor, especially hearing from some of the people who come in for the first time that they're really willing to play around a little bit. And, I spoke with people there, but also people in and around that market. So people who come in and out of Thailand for distribution and hospitality in other places, and so have a little bit more perspective, and people who have worked in Thailand but now come back to the States to also work in hospitality. And the sense overall is that it's cautiously optimistic, of course. There's been one particular move that was exciting for everyone was the removal of tariffs, which lowers the price on wine in Thailand overall. But it's also true that there's instability there. We know that to be the case across the board. You can see tariffs will come and tariffs will go. This has been a big part of our national conversation here. On the other hand, again, there's movement, right? There's energy and there's movement, and that's been the sense across the board over about the last year. And there is again a cautious optimism looking to the horizon. And I would add, to speak specifically to the Italian wine market, that Italian wine in particular is growing there. And that's statistically been shown over the last year and a half or 2 years. Has been not insignificant growth of purchasing and consumption of Italian wine, particularly in Thailand. And it's not surprising because Italian wine, one of the reasons why I love it so much is it's very versatile, it's very dynamic. It's hard to put in a box, which is one of the reasons why people find it challenging. In fact, it's one of the things that makes it challenging to communicate about. Me explaining Italian wine, I could spend and have been spending decades trying to do it and not getting any closer necessarily to being successful at it. But hopefully, I do get people excited about it anyway. The feeling, though, on the other side is that it is this marvelously dynamic and infinite territory for exploration. And for people who don't have this long-standing cultural, traditional connection to wine, they a lot like Americans, in the end, are far more likely to indulge their curiosity and not necessarily fall prey to preconceptions about things. And that's just another thing that I think, right, brings this kind of joy and optimism to the wine scene that I saw there.
Absolutely. I think it often gets stuck in the fear of getting it wrong, and I think having brand new eyes on the industry and on these wines is refreshing. So we want to open up the conversation to get a couple different perspectives on the topic. Who are we going to be speaking to today?
So I reached out to a couple of friends just to get this conversation started in the hopes that, of course, it will be an ongoing one, and mostly because out of sheer completely selfish desire to keep going back to Thailand and the rest of Asia and finding out how people are engaging with wine generally, and especially with my favorite Italian wines there. I started by talking to my friend Jeff Sivayathorn, who works with James O'Brien and the rest of the team at Crew Brooklyn, a fantastic, and that's not just me saying it, they've won tons of awards, Thai restaurant in Brooklyn, that I enjoy for every reason that one enjoys a good restaurant, for their incredible warmth, hospitality, beautiful, comfortable space, great reception of their guests, and their excellent menu that is based on historic recipes from all over Thailand, paired with what I think can be fairly described as an unexpectedly incredible wine list, not because there aren't tons of excellent wine lists in New York City that go alongside all different kinds of cuisine, but because Thai food has not had that relationship in our eyes at a local level in New York. And indeed, Jeff, in the course of our conversation, emphasized that he's been seeing some more people who work in Thai restaurants and Thai driven hospitality in the New York area, starting to really get involved in portfolio tastings and open that up. So that was a wonderful thing to hear from him among the many interesting things that he shared with me. And then I also talked with my friend Paul Osborne, who is the wine director at Shannon in Bangkok. And so he's an American from the South, which I emphasize only because he always does to say that he's an unexpected person in every sense to be working on the floor in a Bangkok wine bar. But so we kind of got the two sides of the coin in that sense, with a Thai person working in an American context with a very wide wine list in terms of the selections and in terms of its global look, global view. And then Paul in Bangkok working instead with a very different kind of clientele and very different expectations, but with the same desire to present a very wide, very ample, deep, and exciting selection of wines from all over the world to his guests. I hope that the conversations I had with them will be equally exciting and interesting to our listeners. I will say that for me, it's just been so much fun already, and a great reminder of why we do this work in the first place. Because as much as it would sound ridiculous to anyone outside of this space, the time we're in the office tasting wine is about the hardest part of our job. It's very lonely and it's very tedious. And it's not the thing that makes you happy about wine, because scoring wine is a technical job, and we know how much our producers appreciate it, and we know how much our readers and consumers are pleased to have the guidance. But what makes all of us get really excited about wine is the part of it that connects us, that conviviality. And so having conversations with people who are in this totally different context and being able to just dip a toe in myself from the outside gives me that new energy, recharges me when I've been going through too much wine that I already know a lot about and feel a little jaded about. This was a real refresher and sort of buoyed me through some of the moments when I was feeling less excited at the end of the year about tasting wine, and instead looking to a new horizon.
Well, I'm excited to open up this part of the world for us. So, with that, I'll let you lead the rest of the conversation for the way, and looking forward to hearing what you guys discuss.
Hi, Paul. Welcome to the Wine Enthusiast podcast. I'm so delighted that you could make time to speak with me today. This is Paul Osborne of Shannon, Bangkok, wine director, and hopefully new friend of Wine Enthusiast for Life. Paul, thank you so much for joining me, and tell everybody who you are, what you do, and how you got there.
Hey, so thank you again for including me in this. It's a real honor and privilege. I've always been in the hospitality industry since the age of 15, but my arrival in Austin really kind of correlates with me finding a love for wine, and not just wine, but the beverage world in general, and the greater, providing hospitality to guests by way of selling wine and being knowledgeable about wine, and wanting to provide a better experience for them. And so anyway, that got the ball rolling. Fast forward 20 years now, I have found myself in Bangkok, Thailand, of all places, and I just fell in love with it. And I had the opportunity to run a restaurant there, and so I've been doing that since May of last year. It's great. I try to keep the program pretty global in scope. I'm a believer and I'm a lover of like the entire world of wine. France doesn't need another flag bearer, right? But South Africa maybe does.
What you're describing is an incredibly eclectic context because you're coming to Thailand as an American. You had this background, this unusual formative experience of having experienced a lot of Thai cuisine. But actually, at Shannon in Bangkok, where you're running the program now, you're, as you described, having pop up chefs, so a lot of different cuisines. Your wine program is really wide ranging in every sense, in an effort to be exciting and interesting, but also to emphasize the incredible diversity of wines that are available. But let's pull that back into what makes it specific, or the kind of specific characteristics of being in this Thai context, because you're now in Thailand on the ground, but not necessarily working with Thai cuisine, and the wines that you're bringing in are from all over the place. So, with the people you're seeing coming into your restaurant, what do they want to drink? How do you curate what you give them at a more individual level? So obviously the list that you're talking about is conceived in this way, but what is it that they're responding to? And what are you seeing them gravitate towards naturally? What are you trying to push towards them to intrigue them in a new way? How are people feeling about wine in this broader sense?
So the number one question I get, which I hope for the purpose of this podcast and this conversation, we never really have to, is it natural?
Oh, wow, interesting.
Oh my God, kill
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
Um, that is the question. Is it natural? And I answer that in a, kind of because I just don't want to get bored every night answering the same question in the same way. So my kind of roundabout way to answer that is the word natural as it applies to the wine world is so kind of undefined. So it really depends on who you talk to. I was like, so I'm going to give you my definition of what a natural wine is. And by that definition, then my entire list is therefore natural. It's a wine that comes from responsibly farmed vineyards. Is it great if they're certified organic? Is it even better if they're certified biodynamic? Sure. But, I know that certification costs money and it takes a lot of time. So I don't really care if it's certified. I just want to know that like the fruit is farmed responsibly and with care, right? And with no additives or, where. And then I want to know that the decisions in the winery are being made in the same way. Like we don't really want to add anything. We don't want to subtract anything. I want to make sure that the ferments start naturally, right, with ambient yeast. Other than that, like you need a human hand to guide fermenting grape juice into being a great wine. And I really, really, really believe that if you just stomp a bunch of grapes and leave them in a bucket, y- yeah, like it's gonna ferment, but it's not gonna be delicious. And so I think that we get people in general, and Thailand, I think right now is really learning about wine. They're way behind America or England or France. I mean, they're, this is a culture that is traditionally drunk beer with dinner and then whiskey after dinner, right? So the concept of drinking wine, going to a restaurant and drinking wine with dinner is a relatively like new construct for them. And so everyone's very curious, but then they hear this word natural and they're like, is it, we're gonna have less of a hangover, right? Like, we're gonna have, it's not gonna give us a headache. Right now, I'm just like, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm a sommelier. I don't know. The whole natural conversation, the sulfur conversation, it's just so boring. I think that at the end of the day, we need to concern ourselves with drinking wines that speak of place and speak of grape, because that's what's interesting.
So speaking of that, what's on the horizon for wine in Thailand? You're saying traditionally Thai people haven't had this relationship with wine, but they're growing it right now. So, people who are used to drinking a lot of beer and spirits, much like Americans at the end of the day, right? So there's always going to be a trajectory for everyone on their journey to wine. You have thought about your list in the way that can respond to the food in the most flexible way and your clientele in the most flexible way. So it seems to me like you're trying to leave all doors open.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, right? Like just imagining like a room of, 20 something Thais, discussing the MGAs of Barbaresco. We're a while away from that. But I think in an optimistic point of view, first off, I think the disposable income exists, right? So the more that we educate and the more that we provide hospitality, the more these young generation of Thai, somewhat well-to-do Bangkok people will start to kind of, they pull up in a Range Rover, and they're wearing a Cartier watch, and their jeans cost, $800, but they don't want to spend more than 2,000 baht on a bottle of wine, which is $60, right? So it's not that they don't have money. It's not that they can't afford the Barbaresco over the Longe Rosso. It's that they don't value the Barbaresco over the Longe Rosso. Okay, so I think that is really where we just continue to do good work and provide, make people happy. But I think in Bangkok, there's a huge opportunity to convert slowly but surely this working class, but well-to-do working class. These are all people that go to school in Singapore and go to school in London, and they come back to Thailand. And these people are the people that come to Shannon, but they don't yet value fine wine. And so what we got to continue to do is just give guests a great experience so that they, whether that, and that maybe that's a 2,000 baht bottle of Valpolicella. It's not a bottle of Amarone, right? But we give them that experience and they remember it, they value it, and they think to themselves, it's different than all the other places that we go out. Like, let's go back to Shannon. We want to have that experience again. And I think that we continue to promote the value of wine at the table, not just as a alcoholic beverage, but as a part of a meal. And I think that is the gap that we need to bridge, is like, wine is not just this like beverage that you get drunk on, right? And so I think we just keep doing this over and over and over and over again. But ultimately, I think that the community is poised to drink better wine.
Well, I think in our conversation, many of the things that you underlined actually just reinforce and reiterate the challenges that wine has in any cultural context and in any place in any hospitality establishment, no matter where you are, which is if we're trying to make wine accessible, it's got to be an atmosphere and a price point that is welcoming to all. And it requires a lot of education. But I am pleased to wrap us up on what I feel is actually a pretty optimistic point, which is that the wine is there, the people are there, there's growing disposable income available to more people, and some already floating around with the first sippers, if we want, on the Thai scene. And you're out there doing the good work of educating the people and banging yourself over the head, if not your clients, when when you're struggling to get the message across, but convinced that it'll get there. So I'm excited to come back to Bangkok and drink more wine. And I'm not at least going to be surprised when I see more people drinking at Shannon and the other establishments you're talking about each time I return, because it's the energy is there. So I'll look forward to being a spectator in this sport while you're out there sweating.
Oh, thank you. I'll keep laboring for the common man, truly. But I mean, but it is there is I think that when we talk about like the market, right? There's always peaks and valleys, and so I think that Bangkok, it's one of the hottest cities in the world, which means that it's positioned not just from a tourist standpoint, but from a local population. I mean, 12 million people, it's a big city. But the wine is there, as you said, right? So the great access to French wine, great access to Italian wine, and lots of really, really good importers and distributors that care. And the interest and the focus is there. We've just got to take time to like build, build, build. I mean, I would say that the majority of our guests are not Thai. The majority of our guests are from, Los Angeles, London, Miami, Paris, Beijing, Shanghai, Singapore, all these places. And that's what keeps us alive. It's not our local Thai community that's really keeping Shannon afloat. But I would love to see that local Thai community grow into keeping a place like Shannon afloat. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for it to grow and develop. And I'm excited to. I'm committed. I've been there almost a year, and I don't want to go anywhere else. Like this is like home now. I don't know what the future holds for me in terms of what it's like in terms of like what it's going to materialize to or be, but like I really want to continue to develop this place and this market because I think it's ripe for it.
I can't think of a better note to end on. I'm very excited to see what happens, and I am rooting for you in this particular battle because I can't wait to see it all come together and get to benefit from it as an outsider peeking in. So, Paul, thank you so much for your time and for talking with me. And I will toast to you right now with an American wine, but I'll look forward to drinking with you all kinds of wines in Thailand or anywhere else that we get to run into each other. Thanks again.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me, and it's a real pleasure and an honor to chat with you.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the Wine Enthusiast Podcast. I'm delighted to be speaking with you. This is Jeff Suvayathorn of Crew Brooklyn, who is a sommelier working with James O'Brien on the floor at their regional historic Thai restaurant. One of the reasons why I got started learning about wine in Thailand is actually because I went to your restaurant, but I saw your great wine list and your very, what people might want to say, authentic, a tricky word, but certainly a very specific kind of representation of Thai cuisine that's really lit up with flavor. And that stood out to me as an experience that I hadn't had in New York. So pairing those two realities, I was excited to come back and talk to you a little bit about your journey to bringing Thai food and an ample and expansive wine program to the New York area. And then a little bit about how that connects to your heritage, your path towards your own path towards wine, and what you hope to see happening in the future. So, thanks again, Jeff, for coming to talk with me. And can you tell me a little bit about yourself to start so that our listeners get an idea of why I'm so excited to be talking to you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me, Danielle. My name is Jeff Sibayaton. So I'm a partner at Crew, the Thai restaurant in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, which is focused on the historic recipe from the old cookbooks.
The historic part, of course, was a big attraction for me. I'm a medievalist, although an Italian medievalist by training. So I was really initially drawn to your place by the potential of learning about the cooking and having a really exciting food experience. But then friends in the wine world said, what you're going to love the most is the wines that are there. So Jeff, when you're building a wine program for your restaurant, you're thinking about a lot of things. But let's start with this first step of how you came to wine, and then talk about how that flourished into what you're doing now. So you're coming from a world that is interested in wine, not interested in wine. What's your background like in that sense?
Okay, so I have been working in the restaurant business since 2001. So it's been about 24, 25 years now. Working in Thailand from north to south, Chiang Mai, Bangkok, Phuket. Also here in Florida and New York City, and kind of like everywhere, like front of house, back of house, also, back office. Yeah, the idea of, like opening the Thai restaurant with a nice wine list, is coming from, all of us, Chef Om and his wife, Kiki, James O'Brien of Popina, he's the one who helped us curating all the wine lists. And James also personally like big fan of Chef Om's food. So, and we always drinking wine because James, brought the nice wine, we eating with Om's food. And we were like, why don't we have like, the restaurant that, the Thai restaurant that focus on wine, because, we kind of like rarely see one in New York City. So that's kind of like the original idea. And I think, James was like so excited about it. So.
So you had a background, you felt confident in the world of Thai hospitality. You come over to the United States, you start working here. You think of you notice the way that I did coming from the outside that there wasn't an offering like this before. There wasn't Thai food and wine coming together, working together in that space. And you work together with these friends who know what's going on in this world and who are big fans of the cuisine to start with. And what were you hoping when you first set out with this in terms of both the presentation of this kind of cuisine and the likelihood of people receiving it well alongside wine? Because, right, as you point out, it wasn't that there's not great Thai food available in the United States or in New York necessarily, or that you can't find interesting wine lists paired with non-European or Eurocentric cuisines. But the two pieces together were definitely unusual, right? So, what were you hoping to do, and what did you expect for challenges there? And what are you seeing now when you're presenting that?
Yeah, so the way we eat Thai food is usually like family style. So it's not gonna be like pairing, course by course, like like in a fine dining vibes. But when it comes to pairing, we tend to choose the wines that is like versatile and can hold up for the whole meal. And I would say like the most challenging things is to curate like the wine list at the beginning. So I think James already did all the hard works, and it kind of like make us easy to sell the wine because our team, when we're selling wines to the tables, or even the customer, we know that it's really like can't go wrong because the whole list is kind of like wine friendly. I mean food friendly.
Mhm. That's really interesting. And what are your guests looking for when they come in? Or do they have an idea? Actually, that's a leading question. Do guests not know what to ask, or do they have an idea and you have to push them away from that a little bit or reformulate?
I think the guest reactions here is pretty interesting. They kind of like trust us to, sometimes they were like, okay, this is like, my food selection. What do you think? What is the why should be pairing? Which is pretty rare for Thai restaurant that, guests like trust us to choose the why for them. I think same thing apply to to our food. Like sometimes the customer doesn't want to think, so you can tell chef just to send out anything, I just don't eat this and that, so So yeah, I think so that's a cool like experience.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So it's, I mean, wine is all about education and any context, but I think you're in the space that you found yourself in being asked to do a little more heavy lifting than most people, right? At a traditional French or Italian restaurant, you have your pairings, people have expectations. As a somm, you can be more or less energetic when you encourage them towards something new or reinforce their ideas about the old school options. But you're kind of starting with a blank slate in that way, as you're saying, and people are maybe putting themselves in your hands more. What do you hope to have a guest understand as a result of the experience with the wine and food that you're offering at Crew?
Um, so I would say the perception of like Thai food in here in general in NYC, is more like street food, which is casual and easy to understand. Um, that's why people drinks beer or booze is like totally makes sense. But the concept at Crew is when it's about a historic recipe, which is like deep and complex and a little bit more sophisticated. I think why has like the same characters, complex, the different vintage, everything about the terroir. So I think that makes sense.
That's really interesting. So speaking of the historic recipes, because these are more specific even than maybe a specific regional Thai representation, what are the kinds of dishes that you're seeking out? And again, I know this as a team. You're not the person who's doing the cooking, um, but when you're thinking about those, what are you looking for in the dishes, and then what are you looking for in the wines? And I ask that just to clarify, because when we talk about pairing, we usually think about, a study in contrast, or how to make sure that the tannins are in concert with the amount of fat in your meat, or the acid level can cut through the intensity of the other flavors and maybe the heat in the plate. But it sounds to me, when you guys are looking at something historic, as you just said, thinking about layers of complexity, you're actually kind of accessing something new in both the food and the wine in that way. Am I correctly understanding what you're thinking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. You're totally
Mhm.
correct.
And so can you think about an example of one of the things that you're serving and the kind of pairing that you bring to it?
I think like to answer as a team, I think we all talking about this thing. I think the one of the bite size called savory food bite. Yeah, so that's I think chef figured out like the vegan version, using like plant-based meat that caramelized, with toasted peanut and coconut caramel sauce served on the fresh fruit, which is pineapples and strawberries. Yeah, we all think like that's kind of like represent us like a good starter with with like explosive flavor. Has like sweetness, saltiness, and the savory, the tartness from the fruit. So yeah, that dish is the most represent Crew.
And so with a dish like that in mind, what kind of a wine are you picking out or suggesting for your guest to go with a dish like that?
Yeah. So we figured that since it's like the starter, also it's just like coincidentally that pairing like perfectly well with champagne or like
Yeah.
sparkling wine. So yeah,
I mean, it's true. As I was thinking about it, because I've had the pleasure of enjoying that dish, that it really is. It also looks, it's a visually beautiful pairing to have a glass of sparkling against that.
thank you.
And that's also, I think I love that particular example because it's very unexpected. Even if you feel a little more confident in the world of Thai cuisine, I don't think it's something that most people have experienced, especially in that specific form. And I don't think that, even though maybe we would err towards the world of sparkling and white wines when it comes to Southeast Asian cuisine, I don't think that the basically that's kind of falling back on the old champagne and strawberries in a fantastic new way, and that's really beautiful.
Right.
So with experiences like that, as you're offering them now, what are you seeing as a reaction from guests? Is it more curiosity to experiment? Is it a difference in expectations if they return? What kind of reactions do you have on the floor day to day?
I would say one word. I would say surprise. Yeah, because I think less people would expect that like some tasty, spicy food would go well with most of the wines. But I think luckily that we have a Riesling in the world, so
Right.
that that's kind of like the final answer.
Right. Yeah, right. But again, right, that in that case, then you have this maybe friendlier or more familiar thing that leads people in, and then you can start experimenting even more from there. And
Mhm.
that's
Right.
that brings more excitement. That's fantastic. Um, so then with what I can say, I think objectively the success that you've had so far, Crew has been widely lauded as one of the best Thai restaurants in New York now, and in particular recognized for the work that you have done as a team there on the wine offerings and beverage program more broadly. What do you hope will happen in the future for this? Is it and that can be at a small level, do you want Crew to get bigger? Do you wanna have more iterations of restaurants like this? Or do you have an expectation for how Thai food will be perceived with wine in general?
Yeah, I personally would love to see the Thai restaurant to have like extensive, not only like wine list but the beverage list. I think it has to start with the interest of like the Thai business owner first, because we realize that it's about the whole customer experience, right? It's not only food, but now it's like the beverage, the service, the vibes. And in the past, I have been to the portfolio tasting for the past like 5-10 years. I rarely see Thai people, but the last time that I went to the portfolio tasting, I saw at least like 2 or 3 Thai restaurant groups, with the newer generations. And I think that's a great thing to see, that people realize that, it's important.
That sounds that's the kind of energy that I was feeling on both sides that attracted my attention at first. So being in Thailand now, seeing a new generation interested in wine, not coming necessarily from that tradition, but then also seeing it here. And I think that's a really important point that you're making, right? That it's culturally driven at that point. So you have people who understand Thai culture, Thai cuisine, the grander scheme of how you present hospitality under that theme and with that background, and then finding how wine fits organically into that space. And they're kind of bringing it there the way that you have also. So
Right,
yeah.
right. Yep.
So speaking of that, as one more little piece that I'd love to add to our conversation, diving back to before you got into hospitality. So you've been in the business 25 years, but you were alive before then, and everybody has a different way of getting to wine. But as you've pointed out here in our conversation, as anyone who's listening is probably aware from the context that we've created here, it's not usual for a Thai person to have a very strong background in wine because it hasn't been an integrated part of the cultural tradition in Thailand, and it's been kind of part of a new way of looking at the world. So, how did you start your work in wine is the more practical side of it, but also the more romantic side of it. What made you fall in love with wine or give your energy to wine?
Yeah, so I guess I started like everyone else, when I went to the college. Everyone brings beer and booze, right? It's cheap, so easy to access. When my first job was at Morton Steakhouse, in Florida. I was a busboy, and you know, I I started to drinking wine, but just the cheapest one in the supermarket, and with the perception, like everyone else, like, oh, it's about the quantity, not the quality, at the time. Until like one day, one of the assistant managers gave me a glass of stack sleep, cast 23.
Oh, wow.
I mean, for me at the time, and I think that's kind of like changed my life in terms of like perception of wine, because now I can see the difference, like, like the better wines than the wine that I have been drinking. So I think since that day, I have starting to do research on the internet, and went to work in a more fine dining environment, and yeah, and work along, with a great sommelier, tasting more about wines. Every time they have the class, then I just took the class.
It's great. I love that you were at a busboy at Morton's in Florida, and then that's that's amazing. That's fantastic. Um, so before I let you go, and thank you for sharing all of those both personal anecdotes and important professional milestones here that are changing the landscape of dining in New York, at least, and probably beyond, as New York tends to push trends elsewhere. Uh, I wanted to just ask a kind of a silly question, which is, what is your favorite Thai dish or bite, even if you want, and sip of wine? What is like, if people ask me this question, I'll tell you, I always say my fallback is vintage champagne, potato chips, and caviar. Like,
Mhm, mhm,
that's like my favorite thing. But if you're thinking of Thai flavors and then
mhm,
wide open world of wine, what's your favorite thing to put together?
Yeah, so first of all, I kind of like like the food person. I'm not like, just sitting at the bar and drinking wines, but I need to get like some food, and then I'm thinking about wines. So personally, I love, like, the spicy food. The spicier the better. So at the end of the day, like my answer always be like a glass of a cabinet Riesling or Spätlese, so. And the dish, always I always choose like the spiciest dish that we have. It used to be the beef tongue jungle curry, in the past, but since chef changed the dish, now the spicy white turmeric salad. So that's
Ooh. Okay. Well, I have to come back for that now. So now
please
you made me excited.
anytime.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, Jeff. This was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to eating and drinking more together. Hopefully, both at your wonderful restaurant, but maybe also in Thailand again when we can figure it
Yeah.
out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You are welcome anytime. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel.
I want to thank Danielle, Jeff, and Paul for their conversation and time today, and for underscoring that enthusiasm for wine is anew and alive in the world. You can email us your comments and questions at podcast@wineenthusiast.com. Remember, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite shows. You can also go to wineenthusiast.com/podcast for more episodes and transcripts. I'm Jordan Kaplan. Thanks for listening.